Every year, thousands of guys show up to Naval Special Warfare Prep School convinced they're built for this. Great athletes, former college swimmers, guys who've never lost a fight in their life. But by the time the pipeline is finished, more than 9 out of 10 of them will be gone. Not because they weren't strong enough, because somewhere around hour 80 of no sleep, their body found a limit their mind never knew existed. This is what it actually takes to become a Navy SEAL in 2026, and it starts long before anyone ever hears the words Hell Week. Here's the part most people get wrong. They think becoming a SEAL is about being the strongest guy in the room. It's not. The Navy already assumes you're strong. What they're actually testing for is something you can't fake under pressure, and that testing starts the moment you try to enlist. Before a candidate ever sees a training pool, they have to clear the paperwork, and the paperwork alone disqualifies plenty of people. Vision has to be correctable to 2025, and color blindness is an automatic disqualifier, because operators need to read colored smoke and wire markings under stress with zero room for error. The ASVAB has a combined score requirement covering general science, mechanical comprehension, and electronics information, and there's no waiver for it, no matter how strong a candidate is physically. Then comes the physical screening test. A 500-yard swim, push-ups, sit-ups, pull-ups, a 1.5-mile run. The minimums look almost doable on paper. 50 push-ups, 10 pull-ups, a 12.5-minute swim, but the competitive numbers tell a different story. 90 push-ups, 18 pull-ups, a 9-minute swim. That gap between minimum and competitive isn't a suggestion. Candidates who post scores near the floor wash out at dramatically higher rates than the ones who blow past it. So the smart ones don't train to the minimum. They train to double it, months before they ever swear in. Once a candidate makes it through boot camp, they land at the Naval Special Warfare Preparatory School, an 8-week gauntlet in Great Lakes, Illinois, designed to weed out anyone who isn't ready for what comes next. It's not the real thing yet. It's the thing that decides whether you're even allowed to attempt the real thing. Then comes Bud S. 24 weeks split into 3 brutal phases, and this is where the myth of the naturally tough guy usually dies. Phase 1 is physical conditioning. 7 weeks of running, swimming, and calisthenics that get harder every single week, because the passing times themselves tighten as training goes on. What was a comfortable pace in week 1 becomes a failing time by week 5, and it's phase 1 that holds the event everyone's actually heard of, Hell Week. 5.5 days, roughly 4 total hours of sleep the entire time, more than 200 miles covered on foot, and something like 20 hours of physical training a day. Candidates run in soaking wet uniforms through freezing surf, carry inflatable boats over their heads as a team, and get systematically denied the one thing every human being needs to function. Sleep. And here's what actually breaks people. It's rarely the running. It's rarely the cold. It's the moment a guy realizes he could quit right now, walk over to a brass bell, ring it 3 times, and the pain stops immediately. That bell sits right there the entire week, in plain view, at every evolution. Nobody has to talk you into ringing it. You have to talk yourself out of it over and over for 5.5 days straight, while your own brain builds the case for why quitting is the reasonable choice. If you make it through Hell Week, you've cleared the single biggest filter in the entire pipeline. Most of the guys who are going to quit have already quit by the time it ends. We cover selection pipelines like this one every week, so if that's your thing, go ahead and subscribe. But surviving Hell Week doesn't mean you're close to done. Phase 2 is combat diving. 7 more weeks learning to operate underwater with equipment that's designed to fail in specific, deliberate ways during training. Because instructors need to know a candidate can solve a life-threatening equipment problem underwater without panicking. Panic under a dive rig is disqualifying in a way that has nothing to do with fitness. Phase 3 is land warfare. 7 weeks of weapons handling, demolitions, and small unit tactics out at San Clemente Island, where candidates finally start training on the actual skills a SEAL team uses in the field instead of just proving they can survive. Even after clearing all 3 Bud-S phases, a candidate still isn't a SEAL. There's 3 weeks of parachute jump school next, static line and free fall training that most people would consider terrifying on its own, but barely registers after what came before it. Then comes SEAL qualification training, another 26 weeks that goes deeper into land navigation, small unit tactics, and mission planning than Bud's ever touched. SQT is where a candidate stops being someone who merely survives selection and starts becoming someone the Navy can actually deploy. Only after all of that does a candidate finally earn the Trident and get assigned to a real SEAL team. Add it up, and you're looking at well over a year, sometimes closer to 14 months, from the day someone walks into boot camp to the day they pin on that Trident. And through every single stage of it, the Navy keeps cutting people. The final number that survives from start to finish sits around 9.5%. Out of every 100 guys who begin this pipeline convinced they're going to make it, roughly 90 of them won't. What separates the ones who do isn't usually visible from the outside. Instructors will tell you the strongest swimmers in the class often quit first because their whole identity was built on being physically gifted, and the moment physical gifts stop being enough, they don't have anything left to fall back on. The guys who make it are usually the ones who found a reason bigger than themselves to keep going, a team they refuse to let down, a promise to a parent, something that mattered more than their own exhaustion at 3 in the morning, standing waist-deep in the Pacific. That's really the whole test, when you strip away the swimming and the running and the cold. The Navy isn't trying to find out who's the toughest person in America. They're trying to find out who will keep making the next right decision when their body is screaming at them to stop, and nobody would blame them if they did. For the guys who make it through, what they get isn't glory. Most SEALs will tell you the job is long stretches of tedious, physically punishing work, interrupted by moments that matter more than almost anything else you'll ever do. What keeps them there is usually the same thing that got them through Hell Week in the first place: the team standing next to them, and the knowledge that everyone around them went through the exact same fire and is still standing. So when someone tells you they're going to become a Navy SEAL, understand what that actually means. It means clearing paperwork most people never bother reading closely. It means training to standards nobody's forcing you to hit, months before anyone official is watching. It means 5.5 days without real sleep, carrying a boat with 3 exhausted strangers, with an easy way out sitting right in front of you the entire time. And it means doing all of that as one of the roughly 9 or 10 people out of every 100 who started the exact same way you did, standing on the same beach, believing the same thing about themselves. That's the part the movies never really get right. There's another one on screen if you're not done yet.